All right, my clock has shifted to 1:00, so let's do this. Um, First, thanks for everybody for joining in, and hopefully we can share the recording more widely, and you can get to know us a bit better. Just to start off, welcome to Lily. So Lily Lawson is our guest today to help launch her book, a new poetry book called Yellow. And then we've brought in some awesome guests to help ask some questions of Lily. And so we have JC Paulson, Joanne, and Jeanne Roland. And you'll notice that I've put links in the replies there so that you can check all of them out. In addition, I'm JG, but you can call me Jen. So JG McLeod or Jen works fine. And without further ado, I just wanted to remind the speakers, mute your mic in between. It really helps with that horrible feedback sound. And if anybody else has questions as we go through this and you want to throw them into the replies, we'll get to those at the end if we can. We're going to try to keep to 30 minutes to an hour max to respect everyone's time. So hopefully you have a great time with us today. So let's go. So just to start off, I'd love it if, Lily, if you could just introduce yourself briefly to everybody, and then we can get into the book.
Hi, I think we've probably established that my name is Lily Lawson, if you didn't know, and I am a poet, short story writer, and kids writer, and I also sometimes write nonfiction. I've had things published. I've published 9 books now, I believe, and also have things published in anthologies and various websites. I'm just released last week my 3rd book in the Rainbow series, and this one is Yellow, having previously released Red and Orange. I'm going to be mean and answer one, and I know that somebody's said to me, what's next? So I am working through. I'm going to be meaning in taking a question away slightly, but I know Jane's got enough questions to be going on with, so she won't mind. I'm going to publish them in order. So the next one will be Green. I don't know what that's going to. It's sort of probably a bit naturey. So all the way through the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But there are other things in the works as well for anybody who is a fan of other work that I write. I want to thank, before we start, I must thank Jen and Joe and Jane for doing this. It's the first time I've actually done a proper book launch in this manner. And it's very kind of them to take the time and trouble to do this for me. So thank you very much, people. I do appreciate it so much. And thank you, people, for coming.
Oh, that's fabulous, Lily. Thank you for the intro to you. So if people want to give Lily a follow, that would be appreciated. And then the links are there to Amazon and Goodreads. I don't know if people are aware who publish books, but if you can get some followers on Amazon, when they send out those emails every time you release a book, that is free marketing. So just a little piece of advice there. I would love it, before we get some specific questions, Lily, if you could just tell us a little bit about Yellow, because that's the book you're launching, and it just published this past week for everybody on Tuesday. So because weekdays can be very busy, we decided to do this on a weekend. But just tell us a little bit about Yellow and maybe your inspiration for that book, maybe your favorite poem, that kind of thing. And then we'll get to some questions.
Yellow is a positive, happy book. There are people that say that I have a positive worldview, and this is the sort of sunshine and positivity book. I believe that there's more good than bad in the world, and so this is I'm hoping that my book can bring some happiness or raise a smile to people, because I like to make people happy if I can. Don't always manage to be as positive as it might as this, but I do try. As far as what my favourite poem is concerned, and people who came in early, I did read a couple of them. I read Hope and the Chair of Life. I'm just having a look. I think Oh, I know. Right. I know. I will read you. I'm going to read They're Not Like You. I'm not saying it's my favorite. It just, I think it's probably, it just sort of, I just like it. I like all of them. It's hard to pick a favorite. So this is They're Not Like You. They can talk, but not like you. They can answer my questions, make me laugh, remind me of days gone by, pull me out of my head, motivate me, encourage and praise me, chastise me when I'm bent on causing trouble, lift me up, make me smile, correct my misinformation, educate me, help me deal with my mistakes, hug me, listen, tell me stories, make me a better person, do almost everything that you do, but not like you.
Oh, I love that one, Lily. I love that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
And the way you read it too. I love that too. I'm going to ask Joe if you can ask a question of Lily. That would be perfect timing, I think.
I'm here. Lily, I've always wanted to ask you this, and I cannot believe I haven't done that yet. The rainbow concept, when did that come to you? How did it come to you? And you are aware that that is a significant commitment, right? We are definitely looking at a number of books once we say we're going to cover the rainbow. So give me the origins of this entire project, if you will. Also, I love that poem very much. It's one of my favorites. Sorry. I'm leaving now.
Lily, you're still muted.
We will try this with sound, shall we? Thank you so much, Joe. For those of you who don't know, my Instagram handle is Poetic Rainbow. And I even have a rainbow on my Twitter handle. I have a thing about rainbows and colour, and I just love rainbows, to be honest. And yes, it is a significant commitment because I have to write 7 books. And at the beginning, you think, oh, this is a fantastic idea. And now I'm halfway through and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what have I taken on? But that doesn't mean but I will do it. I'm trying to remember everything you said. I suppose I talked to my cover designer, Anne Garcia, who is no longer on Twitter but can be found on Instagram, most notably as Anne Garcia Art, I think. But I promise, tag her on Instagram. Or Solace and Raindrops, which is how I know her, really. That's our main account. And we discussed what to do. I asked her to do a cover for a poetry book, and she said, how about doing something that's when we talked about doing a series, and this kind of made sense, that because I'm Poetic Rainbow and because it's poetry, and it just seemed to make sense. And some of my Instagram poetry has been and will continue to be in these books. Rain, for example, was taken from my Instagram account. So there are sometimes some short pieces. Does that answer your question, Joe, or have I wandered off a bit there? I don't mean.
You haven't wandered, and that was yes. I thank you for addressing the commitment thing. And good for you. I was just sort of wondering. Like, I gather that rainbows are inspiring to you, but how did you come to this in the first place? I mean, there had to be some moment where you thought, oh, this will, I don't know, drive my future poetry direction, or these colors will inspire me and color the mood of every book. How did you sort of come to this decision? Because, it really is a big one. Dedicating oneself to a series of any kind is not a thing to take on lightly. So that is, I guess, the one thing we maybe did not entirely address. Thank you.
Um, and how did I end up with? How did I? Anybody who knows how I write, I just write. I don't sort of. I'm so. If you look up Panster in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of me. I am so. I never know what I'm going to write when I sit down to write. On any day, and it could be anything. It can be a story, it can be a poem, it can be nonfiction, it can be absolutely anything that comes out. So I didn't really, Joe, to be honest, I didn't really think it through. I just sort of thought, okay, that's a good idea, and rode with it. I didn't sort of plan it out. I didn't think about what mood each book would have. In fact, I am still investigating. Up to a certain point, I was investigating what the colours meant and what they might mean for me and for my poetry. I just write poems. I don't sort of sit down and think, oh, I'm going to, what does this, how does this inspire me, etc. I just write poems, and poems end up in books. And some of them don't, and some of them will never see the light of day, and that's for the best. But so it kind of, I suppose it inspires me, but it inspires me as much as prompts to, and so on. I'm sorry. I don't sort of. Sometimes I don't think things through. Sometimes I just close my eyes and jump in, like I did with this. So
you are indeed the original pantser.
I am, to the bone.
The jumping in might have been a bit my fault, Lily. I pulled you in.
Yeah, to anybody who doesn't know, the fact that we're doing this, okay, since you should put your hand up. This was all Jen's idea. Let's do this. And so I just said, oh, yeah, sure, why not? So, yeah, basically.
That's the best way sometimes. Lean into fear, embrace it. I'm going to ask Jeanne to ask you a question now, put you back in the hot seat.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, so Lily, as you know, I've just finished a first read through of Yellow. And before I ask my question, I do want to say how impressed I am by the way that you can convey such complicated emotions in very deceptively simple and beautiful ways. And I do think that you're grappling with some very subtle things in this collection. So I was going to ask you, my original plan was to ask you what the color yellow meant to you, what kinds of themes, emotions, experiences you were going to try to explore in this connection. But I'm going to tweak that a little bit because at the introduction you said that this was going to be about happiness, a happy book, and I'm sort of surprised because I feel like I saw some common threads running through the work, and that wasn't the word that I would have chosen. So I'm going to ask you if in writing poetry we learn something about ourselves, if you were surprised by some of the themes that you see in the poems now that you're done with them, if you have a different idea of what yellow means to you now that you're done, or if you just want to talk about what yellow means to you and what you see as the themes and the common threads in your poems.
She's not going to like me for this, but I might throw this back a little bit. I thank you. First of all, thank you so much for reading my book, and thank you so much for the things that you've said. I think the idea was for Yellow to be not necessarily. I don't know if happy was the right word actually, but sort of positive and sunshine and this sort of thing. Sometimes people surprise me because people say things. I genuinely don't sort of. Do I say themes in my book? I suppose. I suppose, in a sense, I tend to write about life. I think, and sort of how, like. what's important to us and how we sort of have to. I suppose it's about how we, in a sense, it's about how we survive the things that we have to survive, and how sometimes it can help to see the silver lining in the clouds. I suppose, maybe, I don't know. I always love to hear what people think about what people say in my books, because I don't always see them. When I was it's been put in order 3 times. The first time I did it the first time with someone, and then I lost the notes and tried to do it myself with what I could remember of the notes. And then somebody else said to me, well, what about putting these in this place? And I had a look at it and I thought, all right then. And so again, I didn't even have a plan for that.
I'm happy to share with you some of the words I wrote down that came to me. Writing poetry is a very personal experience. I think reacting to poetry is also. But in reading over these poems, the words that kept coming to my mind were endurance, resilience, hope, but grounded in acceptance. They seemed like a very mature work. I was really impressed.
Thank you so much.
May I dive in on that just for a moment? Okay, good. Thank you. These are exactly the thoughts I had, Jeanne. So that's very interesting. And I entirely agree with you that the poet may write something, but it is up to us to experience it ourselves. And when I wrote my review of Lily's book, the word that came up for me was indefatigable, that things can be hard. We can endure a great many things, grief, lost love, so many things. And yet there is this resilience of the human spirit. And I think that's what Lily really captures for me. So I would just add that to your comments on Yellow. Thank you for putting up with me diving in. Thank you.
Sounds like you've got a new word of the day, Joe.
I think I should do that one. Yep.
Yes, please do. Love your word of the day. Yes, thank you very much for. They've done it again. They keep making me speechless with these remarks that they make. But thank you so much. Honestly, I love hearing what people think. I love hearing what people say about my work. I generally speaking, sometimes I read the reviews and think, oh my goodness, is this really my book they're talking about? I am just so, I don't know. I just put my book out there in the world. I genuinely don't expect. Will people read it? Will people like it? I'm never sure, and you aren't I don't think you are as a writer. I think you just put things out there and hope. There's that word again. That it will be well received. But then I'm quite often blown away by the things that people say, and sometimes I have no idea how to respond to it, because it doesn't seem like they're talking. I find it difficult to think that they're talking about. They can't be talking about my work. They must be talking about someone else.
Can I jump in here, Lily? I think that you're expressing something that I think we can all relate to as authors. When your work connects in that way, it is kind of humbling in a way, because to know that there's that universal, we can share that as authors, that validation. We don't necessarily write it for that, but then when it happens, it's emotional and beautiful. And when you said that Yellow was happy, but now the word hope keeps coming up, it's just making me think of the fact that people might go to that book to become happy, if that makes sense. So by reading poetry, if they're having a hard time and they see yellow, it can be a catharsis. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you still can't get emotional or cry over the words you're writing, but that healing or that feeling of joy or hope can resonate. And maybe that's more, that yellow doesn't necessarily mean it's completely a happy world, like you said, but, or that Jeanne said when she was commenting on what it meant to her. So yeah, thanks everyone for sharing that. That's very deep. I love thinking about it in that way. If you have another question, let's throw it out there.
So I am aware that Jeanne has a question that I am absolutely dying to hear the answer to. And it was actually one that I had intended to ask Lily as well. So I'm anticipating that. I think Lily, this might be an unfair question, but when you reach indigo, do you think that you will plumb some bluer depths of the human experience? To me, if we're familiar with, Joni Mitchell and Mood Indigo and all of that sort of thing, that's quite a mood switch. So what do you think of that? Or am I really putting you on the spot here?
Well, there's a shock. And Jane was the one I was thinking was going to be the one that did that. I need a different coin. I think I don't know where it's going. I suppose I'm still working out what I know. I know how green's going to go. I know what I want green to be, and I know what I want blue to be. I don't know what I'm going to do with indigo. I honestly don't know. And
I can't wait.
Well, be prepared to talk to me about it, because I think we're going to have to.
Are you terrified or excited about the not knowing? That's what I want to know.
I'm used to not knowing. I sort of go with not knowing. I didn't know how this was going to go. No, I don't think I am terrified. I don't know. I don't think I'm terrified. I might be when I get there. I've got. It won't come out next year because I'm not doing. I could just do poetry, but then I have other books out there as well. And if I just do poetry, then there are going to be people who are going to have to wait a very long time for the fiction follow-up that they've requested. So it's going to be, I have time yet. Who knows what life will send my way? I didn't know. I can see who's in who's come today, and I didn't know who would come today, and I can see, and I didn't expect, and some of these people who have come today mean a lot to me, and I would never have met them had I not come to Twitter. So who knows what's around the corner? I don't know.
That's well said. Do you find that in your process, do you find that it's the hardest part is the publishing part, like the part that comes after the book is written, for those emotions of, whether it's exciting or terror-filled or combination? Is it like, what part of that for you feels maybe the least sure, where you have to really kind of dive in and push through it?
I can see Cheryl Berman's here, and she'll tell you. When I first started on Twitter, I did not mark up my books. I find it very difficult to mark up my books, and after I published My Father's Daughter, and the subsequent books, at times she had to say to me, go on, Lily, tweet, go on, Lily, post something about these books, because you have to market these books. Other people have been very encouraging too, and I'm just not very. I find that difficult. The day I published Yellow, some of the people here today know that I found it a bit. I don't know. I think writing the book and getting it all through, it can feel like a lot of work. But then then it comes out and you go, and it's there were a whole range of emotions come into it, and I have to be honest, one of the things I found quite difficult was my dad died in July, and the fact that this is the first book I've published since he died, I found that quite, and considering the content of the book, it wasn't the best choice really, but it was just, I found it quite difficult. In fact, I had to have help to decide whether these poems were yellow, because I didn't feel like I was in the right headspace to do that at the time. But I'm always proud when I publish my books, but I'm always I want to just run away and not market them and go, right, okay, I've done that now. And so I have to make myself market. I'm getting better. I am getting better. I am trying to push through. But the day after I published, I took a day off from marketing because I just didn't know what to do. Really didn't know what to do, and found it a bit, oh my goodness. And to those of you who don't know, Jen did so many posts for me. And I must say, I know that I've paid her to do some of them, but she did so many posts for me that were that I didn't pay her to do. That she were off her own bat, and she was so supportive. And Cynthia is here too, and she did some for me too. And that's and people did reviews, and that's amazing. I just can't put a price on that. I'm so lucky to have the people I have in my, and Drina did some images for me, as much more talented than I am in that area, and that was good too. I can't tell you how much support I've had from people. It's meant so much to me.
I think that brings up just the whole concept of, a supportive space when you're a writer. Just, it's not just the getting through the writing, which can feel awesome at times and can be really difficult at times. But you made a good point. I think the marketing is one of the hardest things. Probably, I don't know what other aspect of the writing is worse. Maybe if, there's certain aspects of it that aren't in your, skill set or something, and you're learning a brand new thing. But I think the marketing for most people feels like drudgery at times. And I think that support that you just mentioned, just having people around on your side, people that you trust, and I think that's really important, and it's invaluable. And I think we've certainly found that here, and I know some of you are on other platforms and you have that, so definitely something to nurture. I'm gonna ask if Jeanne has a question now, and we'll see what happens, Lily.
Thanks, Jen. I want to just say something not specific about Lily, but on this issue of marketing, just because I think most of us here are all self-publishing or independent. And there seems to be a thread sometimes that goes around about, that self-promotion is a dirty word. And I just want to, encourage everyone that no one would tell trad publishers not to promote their books. If we're self-publishing, we're the only ones who can support our own books. And if you don't love your own book enough to think that it deserves to have readers and that people should know about it, nobody else is going to. So please don't let some people telling you that you shouldn't self-promote keep you from pushing your books. No one else is going to do it. I think that's another thing that makes it hard for self-publishers, because we're encouraged that this is somehow egotistical, but it's not. It's just plain business. So that's my little plug about that. Sorry, Lily, to jump in on your launch with some general comments, but I just couldn't let that pass.
No, I'm happy that you did. I think it's necessary, and maybe Lily can comment on that too. But I'm glad that you brought it up, and I think everyone here can relate. Just a side comment: if anyone has a question they want answered, please, put it in maybe the chat there so that we can make sure that we bring it up. And yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I do have a question that kind of piggybacks on Jen's. I just have so much admiration for anybody who attempts to write poetry, and the thought of publishing a work of poetry personally fills me with terror. The idea of putting something so personal out there for public consumption and criticism. I realize everything that we all write is personal, but we can hide behind the, facade of characters. They aren't me. They're not my opinions. So my question is, where does the courage come from to publish something as personal as poetry? And also, I'm wondering, because I know you've also recently published some short stories, branched into doing that, if you found that requires less vulnerability, or if it's really a similar experience. I'm just wondering how you feel about the putting yourself out there in the printed word, if that's difficult for you.
I actually find it harder I think I found it harder to do the stories. There are 3 people here, Cheryl, Draina and Joe, who, and I said this in Sandcastles and I'm going to say it again, who, without them, Sandcastles wouldn't have existed, because I was so wanted to run away. I don't know how many times I wanted to run away from doing that book. I think maybe because I published more poetry than fiction. I actually think the reverse is true for me, that I find fiction very much harder. I was, or sometimes, or maybe it was because it was a new book. But I did honestly find it really quite difficult, and I had to be told. I got DMs in capital letters telling me, you must publish this book. With Sandcastles, and with this one, this one was more about trying to get it done, and my dad being ill and trying to find time. I don't think I'm brave. I've said I think that people who run into burning buildings or go down the mine or rescue people from sea or this kind of thing, people who risk their lives, are brave. I just write words, goodness me, and I find it, and hopefully they make sense, and hopefully the people like them. And yes, it's putting myself up. Hopefully people will critique my book and not me. I find that I suppose that's one of the things that we have to struggle with sometimes as authors, that sometimes it's not just our books that are up for critique or whatever, or comment. It's sometimes us ourselves as people, and when it gets personal, I do think that it's gone too far. Because it shouldn't be a character assassination. It should just be what you think of the actual book, of the written word that the person has produced. Sorry for all the ums, but I decided I was just going to wing it and see how this went. It's so, yeah.
Well, I think you're brave, Lily. I mean, I thought I was brave putting my book out there, but poetry is on another level. So I think there are all different kinds of brave.
I'm actually in agreement with Jeanne on this one. Fiction was hard enough to put out there, but I am absolutely terrified to publish my poetry, and I don't know if I ever will. So your response to this is fascinating, Lily. And may I say that Sandcastles is just brilliant, and everybody should read it. It's a fantastic piece of work.
and this is the woman I tortured with it. One of them, anyway. I think Jo plays publisher poetry. I recognise that you're worried about it, and I understand that. But from what
I didn't intend for you to encourage me, Lily. I intended to aggrandize you, but thank you.
Jo brought up sandcastles, so tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, that's a collection of short stories. It's 21 short stories. They are in 4 different categories: unexpected, unconditional, unending, and unexplained. The favorite is usually Lavandi, which is about a dog that gets buried in a snowdrift, and it goes through from first love to people all the way through life, the different experiences that we have in life of love, etc., including death. And then we have at the end of it, we have the unexplained category, which brings in aliens and ghosts and possibly a vampire. And that's one of the things I love to do in fiction, is leave things open to interpretation. So sometimes you don't always get a clear thing of what I'm actually intending to talk about. Sometimes there are still some questions. I'll be honest. Every time after I publish a book, when I published My Father's Daughter, I said I only intended to publish one book, and that was it. There was never going to be any more. And then somehow or other, I ended up publishing all these books, and apparently I'm keeping going publishing these books. And at the end of every one, when it's out there, if I'm honest, if somebody said to me, "All right, you're done, you can quit now," I probably would have said, "Oh, thank you," and walked away. Because but Sandcastles was, well, during the course of writing Sandcastles, I found out I had aphantasia. I didn't realise it really. For those of you who don't know, it means that I don't see pictures in my head. So some people say that when they read, they can sort of see everything like a movie, or when they're writing, they can sort of hear the characters talking to them or see the characters talking to them. The hearing bit isn't part of it, but it still comes the same. So, for example, when I read, I don't know what any character looks like or anything like that. And so even in my own books, for example, I'm going to try and find the dog that I can use to represent Andy, and I don't even know what kind of dog it is, because this is not how I work. So apart from the fact that it needs to be something cute and cuddly, I have no idea. So I got so many. It was an experience, and a learning experience for me to recognize that to know that about myself, and it sort of explained a lot of things. And I must again thank Cheryl for helping me to figure that out, because I didn't know.
This is really interesting, Lily. I'm just jumping in because, to me, the idea of writing a short story is inconceivable. I feel like it's a very difficult medium. Anybody who's looked at any of my books know they're very long. I'm wondering if in some ways that ability to distill things down and not get distracted by all of this cinematic, visions in your head has helped you with that form. I don't know. It's not really a question, just an observation.
Maybe Jeanne.
Maybe it did. I don't know how you guys write novels. I don't know. I've tried and I haven't got very far. I'm doing a friend of mine has offered to write with me every day in November. I don't want to do NaNoWriMo in the official sense. I've been there, done that, failed to collect the T-shirt too many times. But I was wondering whether I could even challenge myself to do to stick to the same project for the whole of November. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. I'm not very good at sticking with a project. I have a number of short story. I have a number of things that I've been working on, and again, I had to. It was almost like somebody had to almost say to me, "Now, come on, you need to finish something. You need to actually finish something and get it out there." Rather than doing a bit over here and a bit over there and not actually finishing anything. Pick a project and finish it. I think I was a carer for 10 years, and I think that I get used to writing in sort of brief bits. I don't sort of sit down, and so I write a short story and say, if I don't know, in less than an hour, sometimes in 20 minutes. And it just sort of, I think I got used to writing in very short spaces of time, and that's possibly why I end up writing short stories, because I'm sort of never really had the time or the attention to give to longer pieces of work. I did manage to stick with one project for a whole fortnight. It was the same story. But I had to put it down because it felt like it was taking over my head. I kept thinking about it all the time. And it was like, this is what I'm saying about you guys who write novels. I felt like I was sort of immersed in this, and I had too much else going on at the time to be able to give that time. So maybe that's something I'll do. I would, there's a bit of me, a very small part of me that wants to do everything, that wants to publish something of everything. But maybe that's too ambitious. I don't know. But I'm a poet at heart, and I will always be a poet. But I've been told that I should definitely publish more fiction, and that.
Can I jump in, Lily? Because, I hear what you're saying about, I found it extremely draining to try to stay immersed in my world the whole time while I'm writing, and finding that time. But I also think that you just have a real knack for distilling things down into one fabulous phrase. While you were talking, I was thinking, failed to collect the T-shirt sounds like the great title for a poem. I'd read that poem or short story in a heartbeat.
Thank you. Maybe I'll do something with that.
Story of my life, failed to collect the T-shirt.
That is a book title or a story title for sure. Your discussion there reminded me of something you said earlier, just about your process. You said you don't always consciously say, okay, I'm going to sit down and write this poem or this story, that most of the time you just start writing. And I was just curious if that was the same with the short stories. Were they more intentional? Did you know, for example, the story you mentioned with the dog in it, did you know that that's what you were going to do ahead of time? Did you plot that a bit more? Or was it just as, was it the same as your process with poetry, where you would just, okay, you feel like writing something, you just start writing and then you see where it goes? Was there any difference between the two?
No, not really. I don't think so. Lavandi was written for Mackerel, which is a magazine that no longer exists. The theme was love. Just write something about love. And I didn't want to do these traditional, the standard boy meets girl, boy loses girl, and go through the trope, because been there, everybody's done that. I always try and do something. I always try and lilify everything. So I thought, what can I do? And I came up with this. And a friend of mine they're trying to encourage me to have a dog, and they keep saying, oh, the dogs love you unconditionally, no matter what. And I'm not saying I'm going to have a dog, but and I suppose maybe that was on my mind, and I just thought, what about if this dog, what about if it's the other way around, rather than a human looking for a dog? What about if a dog needs a human, and how would that work? But I didn't plot it. I've only plotted, I think, one. I've only properly plotted one thing, and it wasn't even written. The only time I have actually sat down to write a book and intended to write the book was Santa's Hungry Christmas, which is the next one coming out. Everything else, some of my poems, the Chair of Life, which people like, was actually it was actually from a prompt on Cheryl Berman's Facebook page by Richard. I'm going to say Richard Brewster. Cheryl can correct me if I've got his surname wrong. Who is one of the people who writes for the prompt as well. And if I Were Invisible came from one of Cheryl's prompts. Yes, please keep posting prompts, Cheryl, because you're inspiring me. I find a prompt and I just sort of go with it and see where it leads. Looking at Sandcastles, some of it was written for Mackerel, and some of it was written for uni, with the prompts from uni. So, and some of it was just written because something came into my head, and I'm trying to write without using. I write every day, but I have absolutely no idea what's coming out, really, seriously. And regardless, I don't even know. I don't even look at a prompt and say this is sometimes I don't even look at a prompt and say it's a poem or it's a story. It's just whatever comes out of it. I
think that's relatable to a lot of us.
Yes.
I'm going to wrap this up. We vowed to keep this to under an hour, so just to respect everyone's time. But I want to open the floor to our guests if they have any final thoughts or anything. I feel like you've left us with a lot of topics we could do in the future. You kind of delved into craft and how it varies, and fear and marketing and so many issues that we could do another time. But just thanks to everybody for joining us and supporting indie. I think that's huge. And it doesn't always mean having to go out and buy the book if you're not able to, but just sharing things that you see posted, or, reading things or requesting books from your library. All of that is so helpful. And thanks for joining us today. So Lily, Joe, Jean, if you have any final comments, and then we will say goodbye.
It's interesting to me how we have one of these conversations and it can lead to so many more, even if it's, fairly focused, because we write very different things, and yet we all have so much in common. And it's, just so lovely to be part of a community like this. There's so much support in it if you reach out and support someone else. And Lily, I'm just thrilled for you. It's a great book. And I really hope you write more short stories too. Thanks everyone for coming.
Do you realize that when you're saying, I hope I write more short stories, that means you're going to have to read more of them?
I am aware of that.
I'd just like to second Joe's comments about the importance of finding a community of other authors who can be supportive. I've really found that on Twitter. I know, there's a lot of negativity on Twitter, but for many of us, we don't really have that in our real life. We don't have a group of people who understand, our situations, all of the stresses. And so it's been really wonderful finding this nice group of people. So I want to thank you, Lily, for inviting me into this circle of friends. You guys have been wonderful. You're all wonderful supporters of other authors. And congratulations, Lily, on Yellow. It's really fantastic.
Can I just say thank you to everyone? I get blown away. I know Laura's still here, and I know Thea was here. And my UK writers group has been incredibly supportive too. My UK guys on Twitter. Some of whom are unable to be here, but want the recording. We're absolutely determined this morning that they have to have a recording of this. So if you're listening to the recording, guys, thank you very much for all your support for my Team Books crew, and from and because they were all over. They were honestly they were all oversharing for me, and talking to me. And thank you so much to, again, Cheryl and Drina, here as part of, well, in their own right, of course, but they're another group I belong to, and who I call my wordies in my acknowledgements, and Joe is one of those too, and they are fantastic support, all of them. And I know and I've been told that some people from my Write Club from my Union Write Club will be listening later. And these three have been amazing about doing this. I just can't tell you. It's what it means to me that people were willing to do this. I've never done this before. I guess I will continue to torture people with my fiction and my poetry, and hopefully that will come out okay in the end. So, but thank you seriously, guys. Thank you all of you very much for coming. Guess what? I'm leaking again. But thank you so much for coming. It really means so much to me. And
for our United States listeners, translate that for them. I know what it means, but they might not.
What was that? What did I say?
When you say you're leaking.
Oh. Sorry, my apologies, people. It means it means I'm crying a little bit over here, because I'm just so full of, I don't know, so sort of like overawed with all this support that I get. It's just wow. Jen has the wonderful job of trying to teach me how to do ads, and my next challenge, trying to get a handle on that.
That can be a follow-up. We'll do another one of these, and you can share everything that you've learned and teach everybody. So that's a good thing. I'm going to wrap it up if that's okay, and then when we edit this, it'll be around 45 minutes, which is perfect for sharing on your websites. And yeah, thanks so much to everybody, to you, Lily, to everybody for their questions. And if you are so inclined, Yellow is available worldwide. It's 99 cents on Amazon.com. And all the links are on my page and on Lily's, and a lot of other people who are here have shared it as well. So thanks again, and I'm going to end this. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.